Good morning.
I just wanted to point out something that I asked about earlier this week. I was trying to learn the thesis from the Sikha, but I looked up the thesis itself, so it was a whole different thing. We're discussing the 4 sections of the Tefillin. So Rashi understands that there's 4 sections in the Tefillin because there are 2 words in the Lulatetafis, Tat in Caspian and Pas in African. And that's how Rashi comes to the conclusion that there are 4 sections in the Shema. We had a question about that. Maybe it just means 2 words that mean 2. Who says it means 4? But according to Tesis, we said there's no question. What does Tesis say? Tesis says that there are 3 times the Torah uses the word Lulatetafis. So yes, the word Lulatetafis itself just has the word 2 in it. But Tesis says because there are more than 1 word, there's 2 times just Lulatetafis. The third one we need because the Torah just needs to tell us to put on film. It's not meant to be a word that we derive things from. But since the Torah has 2 actual Lulatetafis, so that's what Tesis says. That's when we know there are 4 sections in film. Okay, now we started a mimer yesterday on the pasuk. Hashem builds Jerusalem, and He gathers the dispersed of Israel. And then the pasuk continues and talks about how Hashem heals the brokenhearted. We wanted to know what was the relationship between Hashem building Jerusalem and healing the brokenhearted. So we started to explain that there are 2 temples we had already. 2 Beis Hamikdashes that we already had, and they had 2 different kinds of godly revelation. The first Beis Hamikdash was a revelation of the Vav of Hashem's name into the Hey, and the first Beis Hamikdash was a revelation of the Yud of Hashem's name into the letter Hey. And the 2 different kinds of letter Hey in our service of Hashem are serving Hashem with understanding and pleasure, it's a higher Hey, and serving Hashem just showing up in our thought, in our speech, in our action, doing what Hashem wants, that's the lower Hey. So because of the lack in our service of Hashem, that's what made us lose these 2 temples. The two temples are associated with 2 ways of serving Hashem. So the second temple, we started to say yesterday, has an advantage that surpasses the first temple. Although it's associated with the lower Hey of Hashem's name, but still it has an advantage that surpasses what was in the first temple. Physically, it was up for a longer amount of time in the first temple. It was larger in the first temple. But there's another advantage. Another advantage that the second temple had was that the first temple was a time of serving Hashem like a tzaddik. Jewish people were tzaddikim. And the second temple was associated with the Jewish people doing tshuva. And tshuva it requires a yid to serve Hashem from inner strength by himself. Tshuva is avodah b'koach atzmi. Tshuva means that you are working with your own power. And we learned the Gemara says a person would rather have 1 measure of his own than receive 9 measures from someone else. So that's the tshuva requires a war, requires a fight. But the Zohar says that there's something you gain by this fight. What do you gain by the fight? The Zohar says it's cheli yatir. That tshuva has a greater kind of force than the tzaddik. His service of Hashem has a whole different kind of intensity. And this is because of the great yearning that Baal Tshuva has because of the distance he feels from Hashem because of his sins. So and that's why when he does Tshuva, the sins turn into mitzvahs. Why did they turn into mitzvahs? Because the sins themselves propelled him to have this higher, deeper relationship with Hashem. Therefore, the sins become mitzvahs, they become positive forces in his life. So there is something to be said about the second temple being greater than the first temple. So the destruction of the second temple is considered to be a greater loss in a way in the destruction of the first temple. There's a pasuk. Pasuk says the river dried up, the yechnav. Then the Torah uses another word for dry up, yavish, nechrav yavish. So Talmud explains that the river drying up and then drying up more represents the loss of the two temples. When this first temple was lost, that the river dried up, but then it really got worse when the second temple was destroyed. So the deficiency of the second temple is considered to be a lot worse than the first, because it's drier after the destruction of the second temple. It's not just that we're missing both temples. The second temple had something in it that surpassed the first temple, and we're losing something more in the second temple than the first temple. What are we losing? Hashem said, "I swear I'm not going to come into the heavenly Jerusalem until I enter the Jerusalem in this world." There's a Jerusalem in heaven, which that's the higher hay of Hashem's name, and there's a Jerusalem in this world, the lower level of Hashem's name, the lower hay. So the main thing that Hashem wants is the lower Jerusalem. Hashem says, "I'm not going into lower Jerusalem in the higher Jerusalem until I can go into lower Jerusalem. What I'm interested in," Hashem says, "is the lower Jerusalem." Why is the lower Jerusalem so important? So what did we say before? The two temples correspond to the two hays in Hashem's name. What's the most important hay? So the first hay, again, is associated with serving Hashem out of pleasure, with understanding, bina liba. The higher hay, which corresponds to the understanding of godliness, pleasure in serving Hashem. The lower hay is about our Kabbalah Sil, our acceptance of the yoke of Hashem. So the main the meaning of Jerusalem in general, as we said earlier yesterday, Yerushalayim means full fear of Hashem. That's what Yerushalayim is about. So Yerushalayim is about Kabbalah Sil. Yerushalayim is about accepting, do what Hashem wants. The higher hay of Hashem's name, that's serving Hashem with understanding and pleasure. The focus, what Hashem is interested in more, is Geula is about. Golus and Geula really is placed on the shoulders of the lower hay, which means placed on our showing up to what Hashem wants. That's the main service of Hashem. So the main deficiency that exists in the world is the deficiency of the loss of the second temple. So this will give us insight to the pasuk that we brought in yesterday, which I just mentioned. Greater shall be the glory of the last house than the glory of the first house. The simple meaning of the pasuk is talking about the second temple, but there's also the way this pasuk is translated regarding the third temple, the building of the Beis Hamikdash. What's the advantage of the Beis Hamikdash, the third Beis Hamikdash? It says that the first Beis Hamikdash was revelation of the Yud of Hashem's name into the Hey of Hashem's name. The second Beis Hamikdash is revelation of the Vav of Hashem's name into the Hey. What's the third Beis Hamikdash? It says the third Beis Hamikdash is a revelation of the Yud of Hashem's name into the letter Hey. So not only do you have the lower Hey of Hashem's name, so instead of just having the Vav of Hashem's name into the Hey, like in the second Beis Hamikdash, or having the revelation, hi, good morning. Water. There's a cup over there and there's water in that thing. And then there's no cups out there? There's a water machine. Yeah, sure.
I didn't get
the first temple.
First temple is hay. Second temple is hay. The third temple is the Yud of.
The first temple is the Yud of Hashem's name into the higher hay. The second temple is a Vav into the lower hay.
You're saying the third is the Yud into the lower hay?
Yes, the third is the higher Yud and the first letter of Hashem's name into the lower hay. So that's why it says, Mashiach will come by Yemahu Yiyeh Hashem Echad Shmechad. That day it shall be, Hashem will be one, and His name will be one. The word Yiyeh has the letter Yud-K twice. Yud-K is the word Yiyeh. What does Yud-K mean? That even in the lower hay, even in Vav-K, even the lower part of Hashem's name, you'll have the same revelation as Yud-K. So you won't just have Yud-K as it is in the higher realm of Atzilus, in the level of Bina, but you'll also have the revelation of the truth of Hashem, as we learned many times that the Yud of Hashem's name is revelation of how Hashem is alone, nothing besides Him. That Yud will exist in the lower hay, in the lowest realm. But in order to That's a yeah. The Yud, the Vavke will be like Yudke. In order to cause a revelation to a lower place, that requires it to come from a higher place. Because think about it, it's not just that we're saying that the third temple will have the Yud. We had the Yud before, the first temple too. What's unique about the third temple is that the higher Yud will be in the lower Hey. And in order to bring the higher Yud to the lower Hey, that requires something infinite. That to power that convergence, that requires something infinite to make those two, to marry the higher Yud and lower Hey, requires something that wasn't in the first temple, wasn't in the second temple. To bring that higher revelation into the lower Hey requires something that wasn't there before. It requires Havaya Deleil, the higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. But are you in general, Hashem's names, there is many names, but the main name is Yud Kei Vav Kei. And Yud Kei Vav Kei itself has two levels within Yud Kei Vav Kei. There are two different names of Hashem, the lower Yud Kei Vav Kei and the higher Yud Kei Vav Kei. So regarding the morning. Sure. Only have a coffee though. You have to have a coffee to join.
You say so.
Yeah, enjoy. Okay, so so I mean, so that's the meaning of the words. Greater shall be the glory of the last house. In the first house was only the revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the lower level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. But the Bayis Ha'achron, the house of the third Beis Hamikdash, that will have the higher name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, as Yud Kei Vav Kei is beyond the spiritual cosmos. So that's the meaning of Bain Yerushalayim Havaya. Hashem will build Yerushalayim. We're not just talking about revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is within Ishtalshalos, within the spiritual cosmos, but Bain Yerushalayim Havaya is referring to the revelation of the infinite Yud Kei Vav Kei, the way Yud Kei Vav Kei is beyond Ishtalshalos. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu rather, I appeared to the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, but I did not let them know my name Yud Kei Vav Kei. By Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, there was no revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Only when Hashem gave us the Torah was there revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei. But even the Yud Kei Vav Kei that was revealed, Hashem gave us the Torah, that was the lower Yud Kei Vav Kei. When Mashiach will come, then Hashem will reveal to us the higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is beyond the Shtalshalos. So in a similar way, the Torah says about the Beis Hamikdash. What's the Beis Hamikdash called? It's called a Mikdash, the house of Adonai. The name of Hashem, Aleph Dal Nun Yud. So even though that's the name that's used, which is a lower level of revelation, nevertheless, that was a vessel for the revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei. But in the first and second temple, what was revealed there? Just the lower level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's why it says says in the Talmud that in the second temple they were missing 5 things. They were missing the Aron, and they were missing the oil to anoint the Kohen Gadol. They're missing 5 things in the second temple. The missing 5 things specifically is associated with the letter Hey of Hashem's name. 5 is equal to the letter Hey. So what were they missing in the second temple? They're missing the higher Hey of Hashem's name. In the third temple, not only will we have the higher Hey or the Yud, we're going to have the whole different revelation Yud Kei Vav Kei, not just Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is within the confines of the spiritual cosmos, but Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is beyond the spiritual cosmos. I heard, it's probably printed, I just didn't see it myself, that the Rebbe's brother-in-law was talking with the Rebbe by one of the meals of Yontif. They're talking different names of Hashem, and the Rebbe said there's nothing higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the Rebbe made a comment that there is Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is in letters. There's Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is beyond letters. So the revelation of the third Beis Hamikdash is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yeah, it's Yud Kei Vav Kei, but it's Yud Kei Vav Kei the way it is beyond the spiritual cosmos, the way it is beyond letters, if you will. When you talk about Yud Kei Vav Kei within the spiritual cosmos, we're talking about 4 different ways that God's energy is filtered. There is the letter Yud, which indicates a contraction. There's the letter Hey, which indicates expansion. There's 4 different kinds of revelation in the four letters of Hashem's name. But when we're talking about the third Beis Hamikdash, we're talking about an infinite revelation. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, as it is beyond letters, as it is beyond the shtalshes. Okay, so the pasuk continues after saying that Hashem will build Yud-Kei Vav-Kei will build Jerusalem. After saying that, okay. Before we're going to the pasuk, so one more point I need to mention. It says when Mashiach will come, we will say, "This is our God we hoped for," and then it says again, "Zeh Havaya." This is Hashem that we hope for. We say it twice. The word "Zeh" means revelation. Zeh means this. Zeh is a word you can use when you're talking about something. You can point out with your fingers, like, this is what it is. Moshe Rabbeinu, it says that when he gave prophecy, unlike all the prophets, it's prophets who said, "So said Hashem." Moshe Rabbeinu said, "This is the word of Hashem." Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara says, had a transparent glass to revelation of Hashem. So the meaning of this double expression, "This is the God that we hope in," we're not only referring to revelation of Hashem as it is within Ishtalshlus, but we're referring to revelation of Hashem as Hashem is beyond Ishtalshlus. So, okay. So what does that have to do with the next part of the pasuk? Hashem heals the brokenhearted. Brokenhearted in this sense in the Torah is referring to those who are broken because they're yearning to cleave to Hashem. They're missing the Eibishter. They miss Hashem. We say in our prayers, that was mentioned in the Maimer, we say in our prayers, those who seek God shall rejoice. The question is if they're just seeking Hashem, why they're rejoicing? And the answer is that the way to find Hashem is by looking for it. So those who are brokenhearted means those who are missing the revelation of Hashem. And that yearning brings the person to feel to miss. He's sick, he's brokenhearted, he doesn't have what he wants. Hashem wants us to have that feeling, but besides having that feeling, Hashem also wants us to show up and to be an active member of Jewish people and to do our mission in the world. So that's why, in addition to saying the first section of Shema every day, which talks about our love for Hashem, we also talk about gathering the grain and gathering the oil and the food that's in the field that we're harvesting. Hashem wants us to show up and do the mission that He has given us. He wants us to come into the world. There has to be Ratz, there has to be the yearning, but there also has to be the shuv. There also has to be showing up. We also have to, in the language of Mechal Mordechai, we have to make our keli. Got to do what we need to do in this world.
Yeah, tell me more.
But the goal is that when Mashiach will come, Hashem will build Yerushalayim. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei will build Yerushalayim. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei means Hashem as He is, without any contractions, as He is beyond the spiritual cosmos. That will shine in this world. And that revelation will heal the broken heart. There won't be even brokenheartedness anymore because Hashem will be revealed here.
So there won't be a kelim. We won't need kelim anymore when Mashiach comes. Because you actually said something interesting. You said that the third Beis Hamikdash is beyond letters. Letters are vessels, right? And the light of Hashem that enters into the letters creates that possibility, that potential, which is what differentiates first temple from second, right? Same letter hey, but there's a quality of light. So you're saying it's beyond. So right now we need vessels. We need haze.
I'll see you later about your vessels. Okay. So it says that the word sickness in Hebrew is numerical equivalent to 49. Why? Because there are 50 gates of understanding. And until you get all 50, you're still sick. You're still yearning for something more. Until you have the full revelation, there's sickness. Mashiach will come, Hashem reveal the higher level Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. There won't be any sickness anymore. Hashem will heal the brokenhearted. There's no illness. There's no deficiency. There's no yearning. But until that time, there's a yearning. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem gave him all 49 gates of wisdom, but he still was missing the 50th. When he passed away, then Hashem gave him the 50th. That's why it says he went to Mount Nevoi. The word Nevoi, which is the name of a mountain, could also be read as Nun Boy, a place that had the letter Nun. So until you get to the letter Nun, the 50th gate, Nun is equal to 50, Moshe Rabbeinu is still in a state of yearning. It says that tzaddikim, they cannot see what they can see when they pass away. They cannot see some things while they're alive. When they pass away, they can see. So that's the meaning of the pasuk. Hashem builds Jerusalem. He heals the brokenhearted. How does he heal? How does he heal the brokenhearted? By Hashem building Jerusalem. Since the revelation in Jerusalem will be from the higher level, Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, therefore there won't be any sickness, any love sickness, any yearning. This is also connected to the Haftarah. The Haftarah this week is Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. This is the first week of the 7 Haftarahs we're going to read of comfort. So Avud Raham brings down a medrash that explains the order of the 7 Haftarahs. The first Haftarah is Hashem tells the prophets, go comfort my people, go comfort the Jewish people. And then we respond in the next Haftarah and we say, God has left me, which means you're telling the prophets to comfort us. Where are you? We're not comforted by your telling us by your sending the prophets to us. That's the second Haftarah. After the second Haftarah, where we reject Hashem's comfort through the prophets, so then God responds in the third, and we say to God also, then the third Haftarah, the prophets say to Hashem, they haven't been comforted. There is no comfort. That the third Haftarah is a prophet going back to Hashem and saying, hey, it didn't work. So then the fourth Haftarah, God says, okay, I am the one who comforts you. So that's the conversations going on beneath the scenes in these 4 Haftarahs. So what is this conversation about? It says that all the prophets, their revelation is from the way Atzilus shines in the Netzach Hoiden Yesod B'Riya Tziyasiyah. That's where their revelation comes from. In that itself, there are different levels. The Nevuah of Yeshaya, of Isaiah, was through the revelation of Hashem in Netzach and Hoid of B'Riya. Nevuah of Yecheskel was through Netzach and Hoid of Yetzirah. Nevuah of Zechariah was through Netzach and Hoid of Asiyah. Only Moshe Rabbeinu. We said before that Moshe Rabbeinu was greater than all the prophets. The Gemara says he had a clear revelation, like a clear, transparent glass. His revelation was from Netzach Hoid Yesod of Atzilus, directly from Atzilus, without being filtered to the lower worlds. Yeshaya and Zechariah and Yecheskel, they had Hashem's revelation through the filters of the lower worlds. Moshe Rabbeinu had any filter, had a transparent glass. But even the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu was only from the lower level of Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. And that was the complaint of the Jewish people. They're not comforted by the comfort of the prophets, because what do the Jewish people want? They want Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, the way it is beyond the shtalshus, the way it is beyond the spiritual cosmos. And Hashem accepts this complaint, and Hashem says, I will comfort you, which means, in addition to the comfort of the prophets, when Hashem tells the prophets, hey, go comfort my people, and it says a double expression of comfort. Why double expression? As we learned earlier this week, that Tshuva reaches a infinite revelation of Hashem. Tshuva is, the word double in Hebrew is associated with infinity. So the double comfort is also something which is achieved through Tshuva, something which is beyond. However, Hashem adds something. Hashem says that in addition to the comfort which is achieved through Tshuva, Hashem said, I myself will comfort you. That means there will be revelation of Havai de Leila, the Havai as it is beyond the spiritual cosmos. And that's the meaning of the pasuk. Moshe Rabbeinu says in this parsha, I begged Hashem, Veschanan. That means through Tshuva, we reach a level called Veschanan. What's Veschanan mean? Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm asking Hashem to give me a present. I'm not asking Hashem to give me based upon my merits. I'm asking Hashem to give me a present. The idea of a present in Kabbalah and Chassidus means there is a revelation which is commensurate to your efforts. And there's a revelation which you cannot possibly reach. It's something which can only be given as a present. So Veschanan means we're asking for the revelation of Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei as it is beyond the shtalshus, as something which we cannot touch with our own efforts. Even so through Tshuva, Hashem gives us this present of Havai de Leila. And so this should happen for us, that already in the beginning of the 7 weeks of comfort, we should leave the confines of the constraints of the exile. We should come to the comfort of the Geula, and in a way that Hashem gives us all the 7 weeks of comfort at once. So that we enter from the seven weeks of comfort to the coming year, and we merit to have a chesivach simateva, shantei musukah, and all that we need in children, in health, and in parnasa, And this should happen lower than 10 tefachim in this world in a way that we could see it. Chaim.